Hello and welcome to another episode of Blue Alpine TV, fresh off the press edition. Today we'll talk about Coinbase's newest announcement that just came out 12 minutes ago. We'll talk about whether and why macroeconomic economists are thinking and researchers are thinking that Bitcoin is worthless. And we'll talk about India's central bank's ban on cryptocurrency and whether it's an actual ban or not. But let's jump right into this fresh news story that just came out. So 1.6 billion US dollar cryptocurrency exchange Coinbase is launching a venture fund to create an open financial system for the world. As you know, Coinbase is easily one of the biggest exchanges in the world and definitely in the US. They have currently four currencies that they are offering to the people, and some other different people, different products such as an index fund and all of these things. What they have announced just now is pretty new, is that they are planning to do a venture fund. What is a venture fund? Venture fund means that they are taking some of their capital and investing them into different startups and projects in the financial tech space, but probably with a focus on blockchain. This basically means that Coinbase probably, on how we, as we reported a couple of weeks ago, Coinbase made a lot of money in 2017, to be exact, 1 billion US dollars in revenue. So they're sitting on a lot of cash, and one of the smartest way to invest that cash is actually to invest it into high risk but also high potential reward projects in the blockchain space, because they have the expertise, they have the connections, they kind of could make certain things happen with the power of the exchange. So this is exactly what they're doing. So they're saying Coinbase Ventures will provide financing to promising early stage companies that have the teams and ideas that can move the space forward in a positive and meaningful way. And the way they are communicating this is they are probably saying we're not going to support John Doe's ICO or anything like this. They really want to see something positive and something really with a certain base. And like we said, Coinbase does have the expertise to kind of judge that. So this is really interesting. Here at Coinbase, we're committed to creating an open financial system for the world. Kind of, I mean, depends on the understanding of what exactly this means. But it could mean that they are kind of trying to revamp the entire financial system that the world is currently running on. Obviously, cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology is helping in that. So they're really building on that. It says here also the top 10 largest crypto exchanges rake in $3 million in fees a day. Now, this is granted, this is from when the times were really good and the prices were really high and the hype was there. The question is, what will happen now that the price is going down and the hype is sort of going down a little bit as well. Dan Romero, he's the general manager of Coinbase. He's saying we're trying to build a Google-like company for the cryptocurrency space. So they're trying to build all of these different elements. As you know, Google started with search, then moved into AdWords, and then out of a 20% project grew Gmail and Calendar and all of these projects that have turned kind of into money machines for Google. And I think Coinbase is going kind of the same approach. They are strategically investing into different projects that kind of make sense and building up like this moat, this portfolio of cryptocurrency and blockchain projects. So really interesting news. We'll maybe talk tomorrow also about the official blog post. I've checked out their blog. Unfortunately, nothing was there. I think they announced it on CNBC. But we'll probably get a blog post pretty much after this in a couple of minutes, and then we can talk about this as well. Next story. It's kind of an interesting story, and the reason why I mentioned this, I'll tell you. So the title says macroeconomic researchers call Bitcoin worthless. Now, we've heard these stories. We've heard that Bitcoin is a scam, is in a bubble, it's gonna pop, and all of these things, and it's worthless, and all of these things. But now there is this research company called Capital Economics. They're London-based. They've kind of different countries as a focus in terms of research. Switzerland is one of them. Then they have Norway, Sweden, also Japan, China, all of these things. And they're kind of saying that while there was a short correlation of the S&P 500 and the US dollar Bitcoin chart, they're saying that it's very likely that this will kind of decouple from each other as well. And they're saying we still think that Bitcoin is essentially worthless, meaning that it is likely to fare much worse than other assets in the coming months. What matters is Bitcoin's fundamentals, and nothing has happened recently to suggest that it has any more of a future than we looked at in detail a few months ago. That came from Capital Economics. Now, bunch of topics here that I think we need to mention. First of all, Bitcoin currently, it is not really clear what it is. It is not an investable asset class. We're talking about crypto assets, yes. That doesn't really mean whether cryptocurrency or generally or especially Bitcoin is a currency like a traditional currency that you could invest in. It also doesn't mean it's like a stock you could invest in, or whether the whole approach of digital gold is actually true or not. So keep this in mind kind of when you read these types of statements and research. That's the first thing. So the whole cryptocurrency space is still evolving. Whether these will be traditional assets, investable assets, and all of these things, we'll find out. It's not clear yet. So that's the first mistake in my eyes. Second mistake, what matters in Bitcoin's fundamentals, what matters is Bitcoin's fundamentals, and nothing has changed. Really, nothing has changed. What about SegWit? What about SegWit that we just announced a couple of weeks ago that Bitcoin is now, Coinbase is supporting it, and Bittrex and Bitfinex and all of these exchanges are supporting it all over the exchanges, and it's kind of forced on the network right now. What about that? What about Lightning Network's progress that we have also announced a couple of weeks ago, that they're kind of launching this beta on the mainnet? All of these things, like how can you say that there has nothing been changing in the last couple of months when they last look at it? That's the second thing. And the third thing, I mean, I don't want to knock Capital Economics. I don't know them, and I think maybe they're doing a great job in what they're doing. But just looking at their kind of team, I think it's important to understand they are a team of economists. They don't have a lot of or at all technology backgrounds. I haven't checked all of their economists, but most of them, I would guess, have kind of a financial background, and this is exactly reflected in those statements. Now, if a banker or a hedge fund manager or any kind of analyst is analyzing Bitcoin and doesn't understand the technology, doesn't understand the idea of network effects and all of these things, then yeah, of course, it might seem worthless. But I would ask, for example, Capital Economics to actually understand the technology behind it and try to really dig a bit deeper than just say, well, the price action is not interesting, prices are sinking, hype is dying down, all of these things. Again, caveat here and full disclaimer here, I haven't read the report. It's not public. They are selling these reports as well. So I haven't read it. This is just from the news that I've read here. But I would love to see this from a more technical perspective. For example, if we do research on cryptocurrencies, we always look at the technology, we always look at the product, and we because we have the expertise of technologists and academics at the same time, we have kind of in-house, we kind of are aware of the importance of the technology. And while technology is important, yes, the team is also important and all of these things, and we kind of bring it all together. So when we do research, we put the technology in the foreground. And for us, as we have a more technology background, it's important to because Bitcoin is coming from the technology side, it's not a financial product by any means. So I think it's important to understand the technology behind it as well. But it would be interesting to actually read the full report, to be honest. So if you have it, send it over. I would love to have a look at it. Then, yeah, main news of the day before the Coinbase news. India's central bank to stop dealing with all crypto-related accounts, not ban on crypto, commenters say. So the huge news of the day came from India's central bank. They have announced that they will stop dealing with people and businesses who are kind of working or dealing with cryptocurrencies, meaning cryptocurrency exchanges, for example. So if you're a Coinbase and you have a bank account or any kind of connection with the Reserve Bank of India, then that connection would have been cut. They are doing this because they are feeling that that Bitcoin is not really kind of what was the exact word that they mentioned? They felt like Bitcoin was unsafe in certain ways, and they actually want to launch their own cryptocurrency because they feel like that there is a lot of change happening in the payments industry, and for example, through launching a digital currency, they could actually avoid paying a lot for fiat paper, metallic money, and the management of all of these things. So they are looking at it more from a price saving standpoint and reducing cost standpoint. And I think it's a bit sad. It's really sad that I would have expected a bit more, and I think Pankaj Jain, he is an investor and advisor in blockchain technologies in India. He has this really interesting tweet storm, if you will, and he's saying that if they're banning traditional cryptocurrency exchanges in India, the over-the-counter trades will just increase, and that's really bad. And that's kind of what they actually want to avoid, because they want to also kind of save people from any kind of scams and phishing and all of these things. And I absolutely get that, but they are kind of doing the opposite here. And he's saying, and I believe as well, that the big countries such as South Korea, US, and all of these countries are actually looking at cryptocurrency more in a relaxed way and trying to like slowly regulate and not overly regulate. But what India is doing here, or at least the Reserve Bank of India is doing, is cutting it too drastically, in my opinion. And I hope that they will kind of adjust those regulatory things as we go. Obviously, this will and has affected the price as well. But in my opinion, in our opinion, nothing with the fundamentals of Bitcoin has changed. It's still going really good. You remember yesterday we talked about the value, the amount of value that has been transferred through the network is immense, and it's growing steadily. So this is a good sign. But interestingly, this last part is Ethereum is more popular in India than Bitcoin, which is quite cool. Not cool it's an interesting fact of the day, in my opinion, because you see here a share of cryptocurrency searches conducted in India, and as you know, when we do research, we also look at the Google trends and the communities and all of these things in specific markets in order to like gauge a certain interest. And Ethereum seems to be more invoke more interest. Of course, it could be because Bitcoin or Bitcoin banning has been kind of in the media, so people are kind of shying away from it. But it could also be because, as you know, India has a lot of engineers, and Ethereum is kind of the platform to build on top of. And it could be that people are more interested in actually building on top of the platform, or because the demand is really high for Ethereum engineers or Ethereum technologists, so that people are actually looking more into it. But I thought this was quite interesting to see and understand that although India is kind of in this, we're banning this, we're banning that, that still Ethereum is commanding quite a lot of percentage in search. Yeah, this already brings us at the end of today's episode. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast, join the Telegram channel, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.